The agenda this week journeyed to the front lines of the battle against ISIS. We explored the role of women in building peace in conflict zones and examined the life of Leonardo da Vinci. The agenda's Week in Review begins with Carl Subban on his 3-decade career in the public school system and those 3 sons of his, all drafted into the NHL. Here's a great quote from the book that really reflects on your approach to educating. One day, I asked the school caretaker for a bottle of cleaning agent and a rag. When I saw marks on lockers or walls, I cleaned them off. Just one mark left on a wall or a locker invited more marks. If students stopped to ask what I was doing, I would say, I am cleaning the school for you. That's how much I care about you. That sounds like a very rare approach in our education system, is it?
I have not been in every school and I have not followed every leader, but kids need to know that we care. And it's only when they know that we care that they care about what you want them to do. And so to me, if I walked in the school building and there's paper everywhere, it was telling me about the emotional state of the building. And so when I picked up paper, kids picked up paper. And I walk in the halls today at Brookview Middle School, you don't see any paper on the floor. And it's not just in the building, but outside the building, you know? And that, you know, if I want to influence those children, I better spend time with them. And when I'm spending time with them, this is one of the things I want them to see me doing. They all know Mr. Subban care. So when I say I want you to be in school on time, I want you to be in class on time, for the most part, they're going to do it. They might not do it right away, but eventually they're going to do it.
No, it sets an amazing example, but I don't mean this as a gratuitous slap at principals all over the system. You know, I have no reason to disbelieve the vast majority of them trying to do the best they can. But that's a very, I mean, that feels to me like a very rare approach. That's that's my observation.
I really think that sometimes the business of education takes away some of the tools that we need to do to lead. I think that just from my personal experience, I always said the TDSB is paying me to lead, not to manage. And so many things get in the way of us leading. And so I have to find a way to make a difference. And sometimes I don't think we're looking far enough or deep enough or wide enough, because we continue sometimes to do the same thing every day and we expect to get different results. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so different schools require a different type of leadership. You know, some schools, maybe I don't have to be cleaning the walls. And I don't do it now because they're in great condition now. But I think that's one of the things that if I had to speak to principals, that's one thing I'll tell them, especially young ones, is that each school requires a different type of leadership. How you lead in school A might not be the way you need to lead in school B to have the results you want. But sometimes I think it's like we have our toolbox, our leadership toolbox, and we bring the same toolbox everywhere we go. Doesn't matter what the environment is like, you know, and I think that's the thing about leadership, that's one of the things we need to do differently.
In our last minute here, I want to ask you about politics, because we're going to have a provincial election later this year, and you've spent 3 decades in education. So I bet the party leaders would be interested to know how you think the Ontario education system could be made better.
Good, because I know every school could be better. And the TDSB can be better. But the TDSB, for the most part, are doing a very good job, you know. 250,000 students, almost how many, 500 schools, 40,000 employees. What a mandate, you know, to educate all these youngsters. But a couple of things I would do differently, and hopefully the politicians are listening, because if I was a minister of education, if I was a director of all the school boards, I would say to every teacher, you're only allowed to work 5 years in a school, then you must reapply for your job in that school. That would make it easier. I'm telling you right now, that would be a difference maker. 5 years in a school, then you reapply. Because I think our principals need that. Our principals need that. And that's something that we don't talk about, but they need that tool.
No, we don't talk about it because the teacher unions would never allow it.
Well, you know what? I've benefited from the teacher unions, but you know, there are a lot of children who are ready for school and we're not ready for them. I met this Canadian down in Turks and Caicos. He goes, Carl, when I was in school, I didn't have a lot of success. I was ready for school, but my school was not ready for me. And we need to make sure that our schools are ready for every youngster who walks through those doors.
Here's a clip from Avery Haynes' documentary. Let's roll it, please, Sheldon.
What about music?
Oh, music, they will punish you. It's by hurt your ear.
Your ear?
Yeah.
What do they?
Just put a small stick in your ear.
If you're caught.
If you just got you listen to music.
Toys for children to play with?
No toys.
Anything with a face?
No face. No face. Because they think.
Can you explain that for me?
Because they think that when you paint a pictures or something like that, or toys with a face, they think you will like make her like God.
That it's disrespectful.
Yeah. I don't know how they're thinking.
Tell us about this man and the circumstances he was living under.
We called him Obama because he looked like Iraqi's Obama. He loved it. He spent 3.5 years living in a city that had been turned into an ISIS nightmare. And I don't think that many people are aware of the fact that Mosul, this vibrant city, had been held hostage, that the people, hundreds of thousands of people, held hostage by ISIS, who came in. They were initially welcomed because they thought this was going to be a better way, and it wasn't. And over that 3.5 years, they were subjected to the most obscene kinds of rules, where they hired women, ISIS women, to go out and bite other women if any of their arms were showing. So, but biting and ripping out parts of their skin when they bit it. They had, obviously music was not allowed, smoking wasn't allowed, toys were banned, so children couldn't play with toys. Women covered even their eyes, so the women would be falling down the street because they'd have the full burqa plus grating in between so they couldn't see. I mean, and the stories that were told from people coming out about life under ISIS, people, I mean, unbelievable. The things that you couldn't even imagine you would think up in your worst nightmares was done to these people.
That is a more civilized moment from your trip over there. Let's play something that was a lot less civilized. Here's you in the back of an ambulance, and we're going to talk about this guy that they're working on in just a second. Sheldon, roll this clip, please.
But this patient is different. A nail through his bandaged neck, an overwhelming stench, a burned leg. For some reason, the Iraqi team moves away from this patient as the volunteers try to stabilize him.
Beat.
Yeah.
You know, maybe his guy is that guy. You know?
Okay.
You don't care for this?
I know.
Yeah.
MSF doesn't mind, they take everyone.
Can I have one person arrive with that? I'm going to make sure we go to the right place.
Severely dehydrated, but air entry bilaterally.
The man's clothing, his freshly chopped hair and beard, his hand movements, the fact he had no ID, no family, refused to give his name, all raising suspicions that he may be an ISIS fighter. A couple of the theories, that he was captured and tortured, or that he accidentally detonated an IED.
Was anybody able to confirm if he was in fact ISIS?
The general consensus was that he was ISIS.
Okay, so I got to ask, there you are, in an ambulance with a guy from ISIS. What's going through your head?
At the time, I was just thinking, wow, I'm driving through a war zone in an ambulance with the incarnation of evil. Even in that moment, I thought the guy at the front is an ex-Marine with the word infidel tattooed on his arm. This man's head is nestled in the lap of a Jewish woman, gay woman, and he's got
Mel.
That's Mel, and he's got an American-Canadian journalist filming him in this situation, and I felt like there was some kind of victory in that. I actually felt there was some victory. But the funny thing, Steve, I don't know why I did this. It was really bumpy. The roads are obviously cratered like crazy, and I rested. I kept putting my leg against his stretcher to stop him from bouncing around so much. So somewhere, I don't know, maybe humanity always finds some reason to...
Well, that was consistent with what the doctor, because you asked the doctor as well, you realize you're helping save some of the enemy, not just some of the good guys. And he just, you can tell us his answer. He couldn't go there, right? He just can't think about that. He's a doc.
Yeah.
He's got to save everybody.
You've got to save everybody, and it's not your place, from someone in a medical community, is not your place to decide who's right and who's wrong. It's a life that needs to be saved. It's a body part that needs to be fixed.
But you do know that if that ISIS fella on that stretcher knew who was treating him and who was filming him and who was driving him, his head would have exploded, right? I mean, you represent, all of you represent everything he hates in life.
Oh, and there's no doubt in my mind that if we were in opposite situations of power, I'd be wearing an orange jumpsuit about to have my head cut off, 100%. I'm aware of that.
Did he make it?
I don't know. There's a really strange thing that happens where there's, with all of the international organizations like MSF and others that are in there, NGOs, have a very different perspective than what the Iraqi government and the Iraqi military have when it comes to what should be done with suspected ISIS fighters.
So we don't know if he in fact was tortured or what his backstory was?
No.
Impossible to find any of that out.
Impossible to find out.
Yeah.
Let's find out more about South Sudan. Agnes, it has got to be one of the saddest places in the world right now with all of the terrible violence going on. Tell us about your connection to that violence.
I am one of those who was born in war, grew up in war, became a grandmom in war. That violence means lack of peace to me personally and lack of peace to all South Sudanese. That violence means to me destruction, lack of development, absence of services to the people. It means to me a lot. And it made me feel pain really on how long are we going to be in war, and the generations that are coming up, what will they learn from us? And that is what made me to commit myself to work for peace.
Let me follow up with a walk. There was such hope when South Sudan was created as its own country, not that long ago. But it has descended into violence and misery for so many since then. What's your connection to it?
As a US person, find yourself living through all this conflict, and not even talking about that the US are actually the firewood, because they are the one who fight, and they are the one who, when the fight finished, they are the one find themselves unemployed, sitting around, sometimes just hang out. So it's actually touching, and it's have a real big effect and real bad effect on youth, because they're the one who pay the higher price,
Let me understand that more. Young people pay a different price than older people in these fights? How so?
Okay, the older people, they are already going through the conflict and they living it. But when you come to the young nation, which is supposed to be like the future, like they are tomorrow for the country, but you find them doing nothing, like absolutely nothing, because they just either they go to war, got killed, or come back injured, or after the war finish, you find them like the one who doesn't have anything to do, and all those kind of things. So they are paying actually twice more than the elders, because they're the one who send them. You go, and they're sitting here. So they are actually, like I said, they're the firewood for the war.
The firewood, that is quite the metaphor.
Yeah.
Sadia, I want to bring you in at this point. Tell us about what Plan Canada is doing in this conflict.
Not particularly in this conflict, Steve, but Plan International commits to realizing the rights of women and girls across all our programming, and we do work in South Sudan also. In that, our role is throughout our programming to carry out what we call gender transformative programming, which takes a very, very targeted approach to empowering women and girls across all kinds of programs, such as young people like Awak herself and Agnes here, making sure that throughout any kind of programming that we do, whether it's development assistance or working in humanitarian context, we work together with organic grassroots organizations and movements and youth movements to take the agenda forward. So that is what we do through our work.
And why do you think it's important to focus on women and girls as opposed to everybody?
Well, if you look at absolutely any data out there, any kind of indicator, be it in health, in education, in economic participation, you will find that women and girls are heavily disadvantaged relative to men and boys. And unless, and this is all basically because of prevailing gender inequality and discrimination against women and girls just because they are female. So it is clear to us, and Rachel would absolutely agree with me, to everyone working in development cooperation, that unless these root causes of inequality are addressed head-on, absolutely no goal will be met in the world, whether it's through the Sustainable Development Goals. Nothing will matter. Optimal kind of outcomes for everybody, men and women alike, will not be possible. So it is critical to recognize a couple of things. One is that women and girls actually contribute heavily to their societies. Even in conflict situations, look at who we have today, right? So their contributions are totally invisible. It is critical to visibilize those contributions and bring them at the heart of development cooperation.
Let me follow up over here with Rachel on this one. I think I'm on pretty safe ground in saying that most of the wars in our world are started by men. Men make the decision to go to war, men fight the wars, men are killed in wars. I want to know about women, and I want to know about how actively women are allowed to be involved in, for example, peace negotiations to end those wars.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the problem, because when we're talking about peace negotiations, it's usually the armed actors who are involved in those peace negotiations, and those at a high level tend to be the men. There have been studies that show that peace processes that involve women last longer and more inclusive and are more just, not just for women, but for everybody.
So why aren't more women involved?
Well, I think because of traditionally they've been excluded, and it's a real struggle. But they have been. It is being recognized now. Well, within the UN, there's the UN Security Council Resolution 1325, which says women should be involved in peace building from a community level to a national to an international level. And I think now with the Feminist International Assistance Policy in Canada, it's being recognized that women do play a key role in building peace.
We get to look at more than 7,200 pages of his notebooks that are still around, which is awesome because, frankly, your tweets and my Facebook posts,
they're going to disappear.
Yeah, 5 years from now they'll be gone, or 50 years, certainly 500 years. And so by looking through his notebooks, you can see him doing swirls of water, curls of hair, a doodle of Salai.
He liked curls, right?
Oh, he loved it. In fact,
I mean, he loved me.
And you know, he would love you. One of the things I've done after doing Leonardo is I just try to be a tiny bit more like him. What he loved, if I may say this, is how light hits curly hair, and there's a spot of luster at each point of the curl. That means a shiny, a sort of a glint, not just light, but what Leonardo called luster. If you look at Salvador Mundi and his curls, there's glint. If you look at his earliest paintings, Ginevra da Vinci, you see the curls and you see how light plays with curls. So I'll have everybody looking at your hair now because Leonardo would have loved to have painted it.
Wrong time for me to be in. But I wanted to bring it back a little bit to Saleh. So when he came into Leonardo's life, he was 10 and Leo was in his 30s. I mean, eventually they become lovers.
Yeah, companions.
Companions. Yeah. Was this an acceptable thing at the time?
I think probably, age 10, there's no evidence that they were in any way companions. I think he was just working in Leonardo's retinue. From Leonardo's notebooks, we know that it was in his late teens that there seems to be a relationship forming. But yes, being gay and having a companion in Florence in the late 1400s was not all that unusual. In fact, the word in German for somebody who was gay or like male companions was Florenzer, meaning somebody from Florence. So it was a very tolerant town in that regard, but in many other regards of, people were coming because of the fall of Constantinople, bringing math from the Arab world, and they were in Florence inventing new types of bookkeeping that made the bankers like the Medici very, successful. So you have people with different skills, talents, and personalities all flowing into Florence in this miraculous period, which makes it the cradle of the Renaissance.
Let's talk about the technique of his art. You talk about acuity, perspective. What techniques made his art stand out?
Well, when he did the outlines of a face or an object, he tended to blur it slightly because he had studied optics and he had dissected the human eye, and he knows when I'm looking at your face, It's not a sharp line because I'm seeing it from two eyes, etc. So if you look at the Mona Lisa, or you look at St. John the Baptist, or you look at St. Anne, they all have what's called sfumato, the blurring of lines. But one of the very interesting things was Salvador,
Sorry, I was just going to point out that we have one of your favorite paintings up there.
Right, A Lady with an Ermine is that way, one of my favorites. And you see in that one, you have the light reflecting even off the ermine, and they both have expressions on their face. But as to acuity perspective, you may know Salvador Mundi, the one that sold for $450 million a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
If you look at the blessing hand of Jesus, it's very sharp, unlike the rest of the painting. And that's because Leonardo was writing about perspective, and he has what we call, there it is right there, he has what we call acuity perspective, which means even though lines are blurred when you see objects in the real world, at a certain point near your face, there's a focal point and it's sharp. So it makes the blessing hand of Jesus in this painting look like it's coming off the panel and right at us, blessing us. And so that's the magic of Leonardo, to make on a two-dimensional panel something that looks three-dimensional and that comes out of the mystery and feels like it's touching us.
And that is the Agenda's Week in Review for this Friday, January 5th, 2018. You can see all of those conversations in their entirety on our website, that's tvo.org, on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/theagenda, and thanks to our nightly Twitter live stream on our Periscope page, that's periscope.tv/theagenda.
The Agenda with Steve Bacon is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.